But all food is not created equal. The vast majority of food that is contributing to our emission crises lies in meat and dairy products. We already know that a plant-powered diet is better for your physical and mental health, and I am living proof of that. But the reality is that thanks to this new inventory, we're finding out it is better for the planet.
Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali. So, this has just struck me this morning with Mike Adams. Mayor Adams, can't stand this dude. Oh my goodness. I wish him no harm. Because when you're really, really truthful and you talk about radiation, you got to make sure that you put it out there, your intentions, because folks are going to be looking like nobody's business or for ways to nullify the radiation alarm. And so what struck me this morning was that, and by the way, this probably be a long share, but I'm about getting the data out there at this point in time. I'm not about trying to appeal to our distracted, muscle that just sort of twitches, rubbernecks with every single little. And they will provide the stories. They will provide the distractions. I'm like, this radiation alert has to be laid out. So this morning, it suddenly occurred to me because Dr. Z had shared with me this, or he hadn't shared with me actually, he shared it with everybody, but this clip of Mike Adams, is that what his name is, Mike Adams? It's because I'm just thinking of Mike Adams of Health News or Health Range or whatever. But this guy is supposedly spearheading tracking the consumption of meat and dairy. Oh, no, it's not that they're just tracking you. They're tracking the inevitable latency period of radioactively induced debilitations from cancer to diabetes to whatever can go wrong in your body, radiation's going to cause it. And it's going to increase if you happen to have had some sort of debilitation to begin with. And so the way that they're setting it up is to seem as if they want to reduce the amount of meat that people eat. But that's none of your damn business. I truly dislike aggressive vegans. The only reason why I share that it's healthier to eat as little meat as you can is, number one, most important, because it's contaminated with radiation heavily. Magnitudes of 100-fold greater than you will find in vegetation. However, having a meat-free diet is not a simple thing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's problematic. It can be problematic because there's certain nutrients you can get from meat that you can't get anywhere else unless you are going to practice conscious veganism, whereby even Mayor Napoleon Adams, he occasionally eats fish. I hope he'll eat a whole lot more. I'm just saying, I don't wish him any harm, but if he already likes a fish, then he should just guzzle it down. Now, that said, I am a vegan, but I utilize different supplements so I can counteract the loss of having L-carnosine, acetyl L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10. I make sure I take an iron supplement. There's just a complement of different things that even go outside of what I would get from meat. But the vegetation is denatured at this point in time because the organic farming practices, white people farming practices, and they destroy the soil. So we got to separate from these devils because they will do stuff and change the definition of what you once relied on to include whatever it is they want to poison you with. So I'm looking at them suddenly concerned with meat, and I'm thinking how they want everybody eating bugs. So they would want to blame meat, all the herds of cattle, for carbon emissions rates. When how many daggone animals are on this planet? Billions and billions. If you go and you look at any nature video, you look at herd animals, and you could see them by the thousands and thousands running across the Serengeti. So the idea that all of a sudden, because of cattle farming, because of these agribusinesses, which are nasty, nasty businesses. That's another reason why I don't eat meat. I don't want to contribute to their practices of just, housing these animals horribly. And you're eating the meat and you're getting all their adrenaline, because these are sentient creatures. They know that something's up. It's just that they don't have enough consciousness to say, wait a minute, no, we're out of here, okay? I'm always praying for us that we will rise above the level of farm stock. I'm just saying. But yeah, there's animals all over the daggone planet, peeing and pooping everywhere. Methane gas fumes, anybody? The planet has all that it needs to recirculate all of these different components. However, when you got folks who just pretend that they care about you, they can hide. This is the thing about chaos that the satanic elites thrive within. Is if everything is crazy, then it really takes an effort to calm your mind down so you could ponder what's going on. And you already have to have been a person who's in the habit of pondering. Because when I look at how this dude was when it came to preparedness for all this nonsense, did he care then? Oh, none of these friggin' black elected officials or whatever capacity, the doctors, none of them were telling the absolute truth about what was, and they still are looking for ways to make it go on. And they were targeting the black community with all their lies specifically. Right? It's like, this thing up on the face diaper and all the rest. I don't know how much I can say or I can't say, but all I know is I've seen reports lately about the ventilators being the reason for anybody who was put down on the list. This one died because of this contagion. It's because they put them on the daggone ventilators, okay? So you don't care. You don't care. What's he tracking? Same thing that they track when you find cattle mysteriously dead with their tongues missing. What do you think that they're eating up, that they would need to get the organ that is the closest to whatever it is that they're eating? This is a quote from a book, Downwind: A People's History of the Nuclear West by Sarah Elizabeth Fox. I thank her for that, right? The nuclear bomb testing in the 50s and early 60s was off the charts in the Midwest. They surmised that they killed John Wayne because he did a movie called The Conqueror out in the Midwest, and I think about, I don't know if it was half the crew died shortly thereafter of cancer, including John Wayne. Well, here's what she wrote. Government agencies responsible for public health had indications that radioactive contaminants had entered the food supply, making the fervent promotion of milk drinking all the more unnerving. During the 1950s, they were heavily campaigning for the inclusion of milk in public schools. So much so that the government funding of schools was tagged along to if you were including milk in your lunch menu. If you were not, you lost funding. If you were, you know how desperate schools are to get every single cent that they can get. And so, in addition to measuring local radiation levels and noting local sentiments about testing, the AEC's Public Health Service monitors also gathered milk samples from southern Utah dairies, all while using, and this is from the AEC's comment on it. I think that they were retired, and they started the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They'll change things as soon as everybody suspects that an agency is full of crap. They'll just shut it down and start a new one that's full of new crap, all right? New ways of hiding the crap. So it says, while using to these farmers extreme care and diplomacy, spelled it incorrectly, in order to avoid arousing unwarranted doubts in the minds of dairy farmers concerned. They weren't concerned about contaminating them with radiation. They were worried about them doubting their believability. St. George dairy farmer Boots Cox supplied samples of milk, feed, manure, and the occasional cow to the AEC. Years later, he told Carol Gallagher, "I didn't know what it meant or nothing. I asked them a lot of times, and they told me that they would tell me if they ever found any traces of radiation. The only time they ever did tell me was when China let off their first explosion, and they told me then that they got a slight trace." So they just straight up lie, because China's nuclear bomb test back then was over near China, whereas they were test bombing right in the soil, right in the Midwest. How is it possible that they would get a trace reading from China and absolutely nothing, so that they would be able to warn this man about his cows being heavily contaminated? And just to confirm that I know what I'm talking about, I did a meme where I said 44.44% of Japanese women's breast milk had tested positive for Fukushima fallout. This here, the whole truth about nuclear radiation found in breast milk of Japanese women. There it is. 44.44% of the women tested were found positive. I'll leave a link for this so you can come and read it yourself, because it's just this high level of radioactive iodine found. And they say that means that the babies are sucking it up. What happens with radiation is your body mistakes it for nutrients. Thereby, if you are deficient in natural iron, your body will mistake plutonium for iron and will absorb it in that regard. Potassium, that's why what causes the heart attacks is cesium-137 mimics potassium, and 60% of your potassium requirement is required by your heart. And so the cesium-167, 137 will go right to your heart muscle, where it will proceed to be like a subatomic Gatling gun and destroy the tissue all around it for 20 cells deep. Just one atom. One atom will emit 1,440 radioactive decays every single day. That is worse than swallowing an X-ray machine, because you're more than likely going to be swallowing a whole bunch of radiation, and you can only swallow maybe one X-ray machine. But when it comes to that radiation from Fukushima, they're shipping it directly to our plates. There's nowhere in here where they say, oh, they detect no more radiation anymore. No, they just say they will be discontinuing alerts. Today, FDA is deactivating import alert number 99-33 that has targeted certain food products from Japanese prefectures. So the women are eating that food, and it's getting into their breast milk, and it's getting into ours, because there's been no decontamination that has occurred in the soil surrounding Fukushima, and they're shipping all that food right to us. And so in this tracking that Adams is doing, after proving he could be successful tracking, something that didn't really exist, they're looking for the trajectory of all of these contaminants. This dude right here, this is Dr. Ernest Sternglass at the congressional hearing concerning 3 Mile Island. I need to pinpoint him there because he's not a quack. He ain't alive anymore, but he was a nuclear physicist, non-par. So I've read this quote from his article, Hidden Genocide, that I thank Lauren Murray for maintaining her website, and so I can come on back and read it again, because it needs to be read again. After it was discovered in the early 1970s that even small radiation doses from permitted normal releases of fission products, that's the nuclear power plants, less than those received from normal background radiation, produce unexpectedly large adverse effects on human health, government agencies tried to minimize the health effects on the majority population. They mean the white people, all right? This was done using the federal milk marketing program, originally established in the 1930s to protect the income of farmers when their milk did not taste well, by forcing wholesalers to pay the normal price and to direct it to be diluted with normally tasting milk. Beginning in the 1970s, this program was used to send milk produced in areas close to nuclear reactors contaminated with fission products into the inner city areas where the population was composed mainly of low-income black people and recent Hispanic immigrants. Hispanic immigrants were only going there because they had the cheapest rent. They were not staying there. This was directed at black you and me. So let's listen to Dr. Sternglass. This is him speaking at a news conference just after 3 Mile Island popped off, and the recommendation he made, well, I'll tell you.
It is my feeling that the people within the radius of a few miles, especially pregnant women, should be told that there is a significantly increased risk to their babies.
They were never told a daggone thing. They were never evacuated until days afterwards. See, here they call it the nuclear detection helicopter that was deployed over Washington to detect radiation spikes. Why? Because of those orange skies. And did they tell anybody the reason why? Trump all of a sudden, we got to get that helicopter up there. No, they knew it was the exact same moment that they deployed that helicopter to detect a spike in radiation. Talk about tracking. So why meat and dairy is because it's going to be highly contaminated. They figured out during the whole corona hysteria how to do tracking of our habits and our ways. And that way they can make that hidden genocidal beeline right to black us. Thereby, cattle mutilations are a standard. They happen on the constant. These cows are being surgically mutilated. It's not just because some teenagers came and, this will be funny, and yanked out their tongues. This is strategic. In Fukushima, that stuff doesn't go away. If it hasn't gone away in the prefecture, well, most of the radiation hit every place else, okay? Especially California. That's why, come on, reparations for what are they going to offer each one of us $1 billion sooner or later, while at the same time they're tearing California and the West Coast apart so they could get all the rich white people to move? Come on, we can't be that easy to fool. And here's this friggin' racist as hell rag, Daily Mail. Aliens, Satanist cults, organ harvesters, cattle are once again being horrifically mutilated in America. And no one knows why. Well, who else is here in America but black you and me, right? And they never, ever mention the radiation. This is a map from the International Atomic Energy Agency, and I know they didn't put this up here without having scientists all over the world complaining to the high heavens that they needed the data. And so this is something that they only just recently put up. But when you click on any one of these dots, and this is Japan right here, you click on any one of these dots, it's going to tell you what's up in there, right? This one, strontium 90 and cesium 137. If you scroll on over the whole map, they've got these dots every single place, and it's all about carbon. It's all about carbon. What's the big change in the planet? Radiation, Fukushima, nuclear power plants. Carbon's been here since forever. Cars have been here far longer than nuclear power plants. And so they got their agents out here. AOC, they studied Shirley Chisholm in order to figure out how to get a friggin' underhanded, just evil, deceptive, lying. Oh my goodness. I wish her no harm, right? Person such as AOC, what's your name? I don't even know what your name is. Everybody now, you're supposed to just be, take a number, name your child a number, because you're all going to the great nothingness where you don't deserve names, okay? But I'm just saying, now she's parroting the nuclear industry propaganda. Of course, they cannot afford for their hopes to destroy black you and me to have the nuclear industry be shown for what it is. They can't have the truth out there, because then you'll run into a sister like me and realize there's cures. Because I'm just sharing with you the facts. I'm not sharing my opinion. If I have low view counts, that is because they shadow ban my content. When I first came up on YouTube, I had the fastest rising channel in black YouTube of everybody. I was astounded. It took a couple years to get there, but all of a sudden, boom! And then all of a sudden, all these other folks who are talking about a steady stream of nothingness themselves, it started being catapulted up. And I looked, I said, what's going on with that? And I initially went and asked them, can you talk about Fukushima? The overwhelming majority said, oh, hell no. And they insulted me even. And then all the others, when they got rid of my channel, did they say anything on my behalf? Even though I would constantly, when their channels were first taken down, and that was just to give them credibility, okay? Because as soon as they got a new channel, that one would catapult back up to where it was, right? Did they say anything? What happened to Radical Sister? right? They were like, oh, well, she is telling the truth. But they don't say a word about me, right? Not that they need to, but they surely don't say a word about any of this radioactive heavy metal, poison, contaminated beef, milk, and dairy products produced downwind of Fukushima and Chernobyl nuclear accidents, sold to consumers, schools, exported internationally, sold in restaurants, grocery store products. So as we see our family dropping dead at ridiculously young ages, when we see the steady increase of low birth weights solely among Black us, no other race of people, those Hispanics, their babies are being born at a normal birth rate every year, but not ours. You think I'm making any of this up? These dudes, they want to know, the rich elites, they were given this warning, this very obnoxious warning in Jersey City to keep their damn mouths shut. But to facilitate that, they want to know what's in our food. That way they can be certain when they ship that radioactive Fukushima produce, meat, fish, whatever the heck, sea moss, rice, that it's not making a beeline for them. I'm not kidding you, family. This book has those cures in it. And I wrote it because it needed to be documented. Same as these shares where I'm going into the details. It needs to be documented because we're kidding ourselves if we're trusting these demons, right? So go to 25,000yearcycle.org and get your heel on. I made it easy for you. I've got soap because I know we wash. This way, I don't have to come up and simply ask for donations, even though that is prescribed in the Holy Quran, that when you are working on behalf of your people, it's a good thing. It is blessed by Allah to assist those helping their people. It's not me you need to believe. It's my deeds. And it's the facts. All right? It's that simple. Straight Black family pride, and dang, this hell is over. I love you. Peace and blessings.